You've probably been calling yourself lazy lately, because you wake up tired, because you can't focus like before, because even small things feel heavy. But listen to me for a second. That is not laziness. Laziness is not caring. And you care a lot. What you rate feeling is mental tiredness. It is what happens when your mind has been running for too long, without a real pause. So before you judge yourself, before you push harder, understand this. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You're just tired. Mental tiredness, 𝗬𝗎 come from doing nothing. It comes from doing too much thinking, too much caring, things you never really processed. Your brain was not designed to be on all the time. Notifications, pressure, expectations, comparing yourself to everyone else. Even rest, 𝗬𝗎 feel like rest anymore, because your mind never shuts up. So when you slow down, when you procrastinate, when your body refuses to move, it is not weakness. It is your system asking for recovery. Think about it like this. If you run a machine non-stop, without maintenance, without cooling, without brakes, eventually, it 𝗬𝗎 perform worse. It protects itself. Your brain does the same thing. Mental tiredness can look like laziness, but it is actually self-preservation. And here is the part nobody tells you. Pushing harder is often the worst thing you can do. Because the problem isn't motivation. The problem is overload. So instead of asking, why am I so lazy? Ask a better question. What has been draining me for so long, without me noticing? Maybe it has not work. Maybe it has emotional weight. Unfinished thoughts. Things you never talked about. Pressure you normalize. Healing, 𝗬𝗎 always look productive. Sometimes healing looks like slowing down, without hating yourself for it. You don't need more discipline right now. You need clarity and permission to rest, without calling yourself a failure. One of the hardest parts about mental tiredness is that it makes rest feel wrong. When you slow down, you don't feel relieved. You feel guilty. You sit down, and instead of resting, your mind starts attacking you. You should be doing more. Other people are ahead. You are wasting time. And the truth is, that voice didn't come from you. It came from years of being told that your value depends on how much you produce. We live in a culture that rewards exhaustion and calls it ambition. So when your body finally asks you to stop, your mind panics. Not because stopping is dangerous, but because resting feels unfamiliar. You were taught to push through pain, to ignore signals, to keep going, even when nothing inside you is working anymore. That is why rest feels like failure. Not because it is, but because no one ever taught you how to rest without shame. There is a big difference between being lazy and being mentally exhausted. Lazy means you don't care. You have energy, but you choose not to use it. Mental exhaustion is the opposite. You care too much. You want to do better. You want to move forward. But something inside you feels empty. Your body might be still, but your mind has been working all day, thinking, replaying conversations, worrying about the future, judging the past, making plans you don't even have the energy to start. And from the outside, it looks like laziness. But from the inside, it feels like overload. This is what people don't see. They don't see the constant noise in your head. They don't see how tired you are before the day even starts. So when you stop, when you delay things, when you say I'll do it later, it is not because you don't want to do it. It is because your system 𝗬𝗎 have anything left to give. Lazy people don't feel guilty for resting. They don't overthink it. They don't sit there, blaming themselves for hours. Mentally exhausted people do. They rest, but they don't feel rested. Because even while resting, their mind keeps working. They scroll, not because they enjoy it, but because it distracts them from how tired they really feel. They sleep, but they wake up tired. Not because they didn't sleep enough, but because their mind never fully shut down. This is why motivation doesn't work. This is why discipline feels heavy. You're not missing willpower. You're missing recovery. And no amount of pressure can fix exhaustion. You don't need someone yelling at you to try harder. You need space. You need quiet. You need your mind to feel safe enough to slow down, because once your mind rests, the energy comes back on its own. Not forced, not rushed, but naturally. One of the most exhausting parts of mental tiredness is the guilt that comes with it. You don't just feel tired. You feel bad for being tired. You blame yourself for not having the same energy you had before. You start comparing the person you are now with a version of yourself that used to handle everything. And every time you slow down, that voice shows up, telling you that you're wasting time, that you're falling behind, that something is wrong with you. This is the guilt loop. You're exhausted, so you slow down. You slow down, so you feel guilty. That guilt creates pressure, and that pressure drains you even more, until you're stuck. Not because you don't want to move forward, but because every attempt feels heavy before it even starts. And the worst part is, nobody sees this battle from the outside. It looks like procrastination, but on the inside, it feels like fighting yourself all day. You're tired, not from doing nothing, but from constantly judging yourself for needing rest. Lazy people don't feel guilty for resting. They don't overthink it. They don't sit there, blaming themselves for hours. Mentally exhausted people do. They rest, but they don't feel rested. Because even while resting, their mind keeps working. And that's what keeps them stuck. When you're mentally exhausted, pushing harder doesn't make you stronger. It makes you break quietly. Most people were taught that effort fixes everything. That discipline is the answer. That if you're tired, you should push anyway. But this advice was never meant for a tired mind. When your mind is exhausted, pressure doesn't motivate you. It overwhelms you. It turns small tasks into heavy obligations. And slowly, you start associating effort with pain. You sit down to work, and your body resists. Not because you're lazy, but because it remembers how forcing yourself felt before. This is why pushing yourself often backfires. You might push through one day, maybe two, but then the crash comes, stronger than before, with less energy, less patience, less clarity. And every time this happens, your confidence drops a little. You start trusting yourself less. You start doubting your own abilities, until even simple goals feel intimidating. Not because they are hard, but because your system is already overloaded. And no amount of discipline can fix a nervous system that feels unsafe. Real recovery doesn't come from force. It comes from safety, from slowing down without guilt, from letting your mind breathe instead of constantly proving something. Rest is not quitting. Rest is not weakness. Rest is how your system learns that it doesn't need to stay in survival mode. And once that happens, your energy doesn't disappear. It comes back, quietly, naturally, without being forced. This is why slowing down is sometimes the fastest way forward. A lot of people think rest means stopping completely, doing nothing, shutting everything down. But real rest is not about inactivity. It is about relief. It is about giving your mind a break from pressure, not forcing your body to stay still. You can be resting while walking slowly, while listening to something calm, while sitting in silence, without feeling the need to fix yourself. Real rest happens when you stop fighting your own state When you stop telling yourself that you should be different right now. Most people never truly rest, because even during their breaks, they race still judging themselves, still thinking about what they should be doing, still feeling behind. That is not rest. That is stress in disguise. Rest is when your nervous system finally feels safe enough to slow down, when your body is not waiting for the next demand, when your mind is not bracing itself for pressure. This is why rest can feel uncomfortable at first. Silence brings up thoughts you've been avoiding. Slowing down exposes how tired you really are. But that discomfort is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It is a sign that your system is finally allowed to feel what it has been holding in. You don't need to earn rest. You don't need permission. You don't need to reach a breaking point first. Rest is not a reward. It is a requirement. And the more you respect it, the more your energy returns. Without force, without guilt, without pressure. Slowly, you don't just feel less tired. You feel more like yourself again. And when you finally allow that return to happen, you realize something important. You were never broken. You were overloaded. You weren't weak. You were carrying more than your system could process for too long. Rest doesn't make you fall behind. It prevents you from burning out completely. It gives your mind the space to reconnect with clarity, to remember how focus feels when it is not forced, to remember how motivation comes back naturally when it is not chased. This is how balance is rebuilt, not through pressure, not through guilt, but through patience, through listening, through letting your nervous system breathe. And when you do, progress stops feeling heavy. It starts feeling possible again. At some point, tiredness stops being a problem. It becomes a message your body has been trying to send for a long time. Not telling you to quit, not telling you to give up, but telling you that something in the way you've been living needs to change. You can push through exhaustion for a while. Most people do. But eventually, your system starts asking deeper questions. Why am I always in a hurry? Why do I feel guilty when I rest? Why does everything feel heavy? Even things I used to enjoy. These questions don't mean you're broken. They mean you've outgrown a pace that no longer fits you. Mental tiredness is often the result of living in constant pressure mode. Always anticipating, always performing, always trying to stay ahead. And when your mind never gets a chance to fully settle, it eventually slows you down on its own. Not to punish you, but to protect you. This is why fighting exhaustion rarely works in the long run. Because what you're resisting is often what needs your attention the most. Rest is not about escaping responsibility. It is about reconnecting with yourself before you lose that connection completely. It is about learning to move at a pace that allows you to think clearly, feel deeply, and live intentionally. You don't need to have everything figured out right now. You don't need to force motivation. Sometimes, clarity returns only after you've allowed yourself to slow down long enough to hear your own thoughts again. And when that happens, progress stops feeling like a fight. It becomes something you grow into, quietly, steadily, in your own time.